letter on shells from the beach, strung together with Papa's fishing twine. She touched it in her pocket, feeling the shell's sharp edges with her fingertips. But no young girl descended from the car. Sophie waited, her throat tightening. Julia hadn't come after all. Stupid to think she might have done. She'd be 19 by now. She would be travelling with a boyfriend to Thailand or India, one of those kinds of places. Why return to PAXOS with the rest of the world to explore? There were handshakes, exclamations over Nico's 4-year-old size, how tall he was these days, and Sophia how grown up for 13. What excellent English. Sophie tried to smile, but her mouth twisted awkwardly. She hated people calling her Sophia, though that was her given name, after Baba's aunt, a complaining old woman who had died years ago. Nico had called her Sophie as soon as he could speak, and now everyone did. She liked it better. It sounded more like her. She had to pretend to be pleased to see the owners, but she wasn't. Peter and Jane weren't really interested in them. It was obvious they were only pretending and that her family were just caretakers to them, workers paid to do a job. The pretense would fade as the holiday wore on. It always did. She was used to that. Already Peter was inspecting his watch, though he said to his friends when they arrived, turning to indicate the house and the gardens with a grand sweep of his arm, that this was a place where time ceased to exist. That wasn't true for them, of course, the workers. Baba was fishing by 4 in the morning. Athena rose at 5 to make breakfast, though you wouldn't guess that from the way she smiled at the guests. She told them their room was ready and that Dimitrios would bring up their bags. It was obvious they were tired, Jane more than Peter. Jane moved slowly. The journey had exhausted her. Kolena, the baker's mother in her 80s, gathered olives and clambered along the cliffs for wild sage. But Jane would spend most of the holiday lying down. Athena went back to the kitchen, still smiling as she tucked a strand of black hair behind her ear. She liked it when guests came, or she liked it at first. She enjoyed cooking and didn't mind that no one ever said thank you. But when they left at the end of summer, she would walk in the garden admiring everything Dimitrios had done. She would go to the beach in the evenings or out in the boat with Baba. She looked younger then. She sang more. The kettle was put on the stove for mint tea. Sophie had picked the mint earlier and arranged Curabiedes biscuits on the plate with the olive tree pattern. She thought the biscuits had been meant for their own Christmas and tried not to mind. Nico stayed with Athena in the kitchen to help her make the loaves for supper. He stood on a stool to knead the dough for eliopsoma, special bread made with olives, rosemary, and oregano. Sophie's favourite. She retreated to the olive tree to shell peas and watch the drive for Peter's guests, who would shortly arrive. It was mid-afternoon and searingly hot. The cicadas were screaming. The peas hit the side of the pot with a noise like tiny bullets from a gun. Peter and Jane would be in their bedroom now, the biggest one, with long windows and a balcony that faced the sea. The shutters had been closed against the sun earlier in the day. New lemon soap was in the dish by the basin. She had put it there herself, along with a lemon leaf. Afterwards, her hands smelt of lemons all day. A bottle of wine had been placed in the fridge. 2 bottles, on second thoughts. Jane liked wine. There was a new mosaic of horses in the courtyard and a fountain with a statue of a naked girl bought from a museum and delivered last week. Peter chose what he wanted very carefully. The house was famous. There were photographs in magazines that Athena kept in a scrapbook. Dimitrios and Christos moved from where they had been standing in the shade by the wall near the car. They were the sons of Athena's 2 older sisters. Dimitrios had a ponytail and wore red trainers. Christos had short hair and was thinner. At least that was how the guests would tell them apart. They wouldn't know Dimitrios was kind, soft as Baba called him, or that he was in love with Roxana, who worked in a bar in Gaios. Roxana had short black hair and sloping eyes. She loved reading and lent Sophie her books when she'd finished with them. Dimitrios was saving money to buy land for a house, so they could get married. Christos didn't have time for a girlfriend. He studied late at night. He'd go far, Baba said. Christos dreamt of getting rich in America, but Sophie thought that was much too far. She looked forward to the arrival of her cousins every year for weeks and felt sorry that Peter always stared at them as if they were strangers he'd never seen before. Dimitrios opened the boot of the Mercedes and reached for the cases at the same moment that the back door swung open, and a girl